So folks, in 2009 I took a trip, an international trip. I went to Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan is located right on the border of Russia, China, and the Caspian Sea. So way far east. It was a fun trip. I did it with my university. We had a petroleum department in my university, and that's what I was studying, petroleum engineering. And we had a good relationship with the university there. So we decided to exchange our field session ideas, petroleum engineering and geological field session ideas. So they said, why don't you guys come over and show us what you do down here? We said, okay. So we were excited, 10 people, 5 people from the geology department, 5 people from the petroleum engineering department to go to Kazakhstan, and including our teachers as well, 2 teachers. We got on the plane, we went to Kazakhstan. I gotta tell you, really, even now, it was such a beautiful place. It's sort of like Colorado. It's very mountainous. It's beautiful in nature, and a lot of the places there are just unadulterated. There's not a lot of people that live there, and it's just, well, middle of nowhere, outside the city. We landed in the city of Almaty, which used to be the capital, but now it's just the biggest city. It's very modernized. It's amazing what oil money will do in those parts of the world. And we got there, we realized the people are so nice. They're beautiful, they're generous. They'll invite you into their home, give you tea. They have good upbringing as people. So we spent the first week in the city. We would just travel around, tour around, go and see places, old places. We'd eat the food. The food was really magnificent, very richly done. So it was time for our field session. 5 days passed, and it was time for us to pack up and go. So what did we do? We had a couple of vans. Took 2 vans, and took a couple of security guards. Big Russian dudes in the vans. Took them in and went off to the south, to a place called Taras, a little bit southern than that. Anyways, when we arrived, what we saw was a goat herder and his family, a bunch of goats, and nothing else in between. A lot of mountainous areas. So this was the middle of nowhere. What did we do? We started to set up a tent. We set up our tents, and there were going to be 2 people living in a tent, and we were going to camp. So no plumbing, no running water. It was fun. It was getting outside of civilization for a little bit. And it was a good time, because during the daytime, what we would do is we would go out and we'd go on our geological trip. We would hike from 9 o'clock until 4 o'clock. And the summers were hot. This was June. So the summers, the temperature got into the high 90s. It was pretty hot, and we hiked, we got tired, our bodies weren't very accustomed to it. Especially when we had a miscommunication with the Kazakhstan party. We told them about getting water for us, a lot of water. And for some reason they didn't quite provide a lot of water. We only got a certain ration. Now imagine you're going out with probably 20 people we had, and you have about 10-gallon ration for 20 people, and you're out the whole day. So it gets a little bit tough and you get dehydrated. But it was okay, we were still enjoying it. The best part of the night was when we came back at 4 o'clock and they would cook for us. We had cooks, Kazakh cooks, and they did a fantastic job. Especially for me, why? Because the stuff that my mom cooks at home, that's what they cooked. It was heaven, I just can't describe it. So it was great. We had some problems. Some of our people, they got sick. Because whenever you go to a different country, there's sometimes bacteria, just like here. We have bacteria everywhere. You're just not used to the bacteria. The people over there are used to it. If you're not used to it, you tend to get stomach sickness and you get diarrhea. So a lot of us started popping a lot of Imodium pills just to keep that away. Luckily, I was one of the 2 people that didn't get sick. Well, the trip was about to be over. We really enjoyed our company there. We went back to the city, and we were about to pack and go home. We got on the plane, and we had a layover in Germany, because it's from Kazakhstan to Germany, and from Germany to Colorado. So we arrive in Germany, and we get out of the terminal, and we walk, and I'm just walking with my friend, walking, and I hear some sort of a commotion in the back. So I turn around, and one of my friends just grabs me by the hand and says, "Let's go, we gotta go." I said, "Whoa, what happened?" So my friend takes me to a big hall, There's not a lot of people around the place, just in a little huddled circle. I see that there's people encircled around the little area. Take a look at the area, and I think maybe somebody in a wheelchair fell or something. And as the people started walking away, I suddenly realized there was a girl on the floor. And that girl was my friend that went to the trip with me, Kazakhstan. She was one of us, one of the 10 people that went there. She was on the floor and she was unconscious at that point. And it was very weird. I've never really seen anything like that, to see a person unconscious. We had 3 people sitting next to her, 2 of our professors and 1 of the students. And they just sat because none of us knew what to do. We called for first aid. That's all we could do is wait. So we waited, and about 25 minutes later, ambulance came in. And they gave her some oxygen, and they put her on a stretcher and took her to the hospital. So 2 people stayed in Kazakhstan, one of my professors and one of my friends. They stayed behind just to be with her in the hospital. And we went home. And when we got home to Colorado, I got a call. And they said, okay, we have an update about the girl. And they said, guess what? They took her to the hospital, and the doctors were able to revive her body. Right? So her body is pink again. Her face looks wonderful. Her heart is beating. Her blood is pumping. Her hands are moving. Just wiggling around a little bit. It's awesome. They were able to revive the girl. But she's brain dead. So that was quite interesting, because it was a little bit unexpected to see a girl revived back, but yet useless at that point because her brain is gone. So in that case, that really got me thinking. You know, a lot of times we as people, including myself at that point, I just wasn't sure. I've never learned anything about what to do in emergency situations like this. Started doing some research, and apparently your brain, if it doesn't get oxygen within the first 8 minutes, 9 minutes, it goes brain dead. Your brain starts to die, and at that point, even if they revive you, you're already dead. So as a group, we took a look back, and one of the big things that I took away from this whole trip was exactly that. It's we have to teach ourselves sometimes how to do things such as CPR. Now, CPR would have never brought this girl back to life, or she wouldn't have woken up like in television, because what they show in television is usually not how it works. They don't just wake up. 95% of the time, they'll still be unconscious. But what CPR does do is, when you pump the person, it circulates the blood, and the blood has the oxygen, and therefore provides circulation of oxygen throughout the body, including the brain. So what you do is you're buying the person some time until the ambulance comes in and takes over, and hopefully resuscitates her and gets her in a good alert state. So at that point we lost the girl, but in the end, that was the only tragedy Colorado School of Mines has ever had internationally. We have never had a loss of a life before. But in the end, it was a strong lesson learned, and I encourage every one of us over here, if you ever get a chance, take a class on how to do CPR, how to use an AED device if the person has an irregular heartbeat. Go ahead and do it, because you might save one person tomorrow, and tomorrow it might be you, God forbid, and somebody else might have to save you. And imagine if the other person just didn't know how to do it. Wouldn't that be a shame? It would be, because none of us knew.